Hello everybody, I'm Roxy and this is Rock Me BS. So today I bring you my fiction reads of 2018, and if you want to know why I split my favorites list this year, please go check out my nonfiction bests of 2018 and you'll also find some really great nonfiction to read right there. As I mentioned also in my December wrap-up, I stopped giving star ratings on Goodreads in December because it was stressful, because I didn't like it. Now I'm better off without them. However, I thought it was interesting to mention that one of the things that influenced that decision was actually this list. As I was doing it, or thinking about doing it in November, I realized that there was a book that I think is amazing, and I think that it's a great book technically, but that it wasn't my personal favorite of 2018, and so I had given it a 5-star rating, but it wasn't going to make this list when some books that I had given 4-star reviews were going to be. And that was The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. This book is great, where a lot of women cannot reproduce, and so they have handmaids who are in charge of getting pregnant. And as I said, I think this book is amazing. I think technically it's a really good book. Emotionally, it destroyed me, but it just wasn't a favorite read. So I realized star ratings weren't really working out for me. Anyways, let's get on with the list. So number 10 is A Single Man, the last book, and I kid you not, the last book that I read last year by Christopher Isherwood. This is a short novel about a man whose partner has died and he hasn't been able to cope with that death. He's become a hermit, he sees friends less and less, and so the novel just follows him about his day, going to his job, talking to his friends, and the premise is so simple, but the execution is so right. It's heartbreaking. It's very slow, but it's so worth it, and I'm so sad just thinking about this book. The number 9 is a play that I had to read for a course, and although I did not like the course, I did love this play, and that is A Number by Carl Churchill. This is a short play about cloning. Yep. There's basically a father and then a child that finds out he's being cloned, and then the other clones. It's amazing, it's intense. It of course talks about bioethics, and it's really great. What I will say though is that you really do need a trained mind in reading plays in order to read this one. I don't think it's the most readable play ever because it has virtually no stage directions, and it also doesn't have lots of punctuation. So it's basically up to you to interpret the characters a lot. It's a very demanding play to read. The number 8 is Betrayal by Harold Pinter. I had wanted to read Harold Pinter for a long time, and I finally did. And I will go on to read whatever he has written, even if it's a grocery list. Because the tension in this book is so palpable. This is another play. I'm sorry, this is not a book. Well, it is, but it's also a play. And it's about a weird love triangle play out throughout a long stretch of time, and that's all I'll say. It's amazing. It's so prosaic, but at the same time so intense because it's real. It's what can really affect us as humans, and I just loved it. Once again, not the easiest play to read because I think a lot of the dialogue can go really dramatic if you imagine it in a very melodramatic delivery, but I could just see it in my head, and I really want to see this production now. Number 7 was also a play. What do you know? I read lots of plays because I had trauma. This one I actually recommend for you to read. It is a bit confusing, yes, but it's so worth it, and it has lots of naturalistic stage directions, so I think that helps. This is the story of Willy Loman, a salesman who has sort of seen better days, and it's about his airs of grandeur and how the American dream has sort of failed him in spite of him always wanting to succeed, and him thinking he is going to succeed, and how his inability to accept his life as it is has affected his family and their future, especially his two children. It's amazing, heartbreaking, brilliant. Also my first time reading Arthur Miller, and once again I want to read so much by him now. Then number 6 is On What a Paradise It Seems by John Cheever. I think about this short book a lot. I mentioned it in my short books wrap up and in my July wrap up. I will link both down below. And it's a great book about a man who's trying to prevent a lake from being polluted, and he also falls in love with a younger woman, and sort of how that plays out. Now, as I've mentioned before, this is not considered the best Cheever out there, so my thoughts might change once I read more. As my first Cheever and as a book on its own, I thought it was great, and so I had to put it in this list. Then number 5 is A Line Made by Walking by Sarah Baum. I also read this quite early in the year, and I kept thinking about it. It's a very simple, self-indulgent book about a woman who's basically depressed after the death of her grandma, and she goes to live in her house. And she has a project where she takes pictures of dead animals. And beware that the pictures do feature in the books. It's handled tastefully, I think. It's handled in a way that's very interesting and heartbreaking, but just know that those are in there. This book is very slow, of course, but I couldn't stop reading it when I was reading it because it resonated with me so much, and I also think that it's so well accomplished. It really crafts this person that is multi-dimensional, that not a lot of people will maybe sympathize with, but you can still see where it comes from, and that's what makes it really great. Then number 4 is Lapham De Shields by Madeleine Bordeaux. She has recently been sort of rediscovered and reissued, which I think is amazing, and I want to read her other books as well. This book is about a woman who is Jill's wife. That's her whole identity. The most important part for her and to everyone else is that she is Jill's wife, and she loves it. She loves him so much to a point that it's obsessive. She does nothing but think of him the entire day until he gets home. But then he falls in love with her sister. Yep, it's heartbreaking, it's terrible, it's written beautifully, and it's also very short, which, you know, could go either way. Could make it very superficial, or it could make it great, and it made it great. Number 3 is Gachar Gochar. It's about this family who is very poor and very close because of just who they are, but also because of money. Because money is so tight, they need to consult each other on everything and act really as a unit. But then they become well off because the dad really does some great business, and it shows how money both changes them and it doesn't, and how money brings strangers into their lives that threaten really their family and that are really affected in a way that perhaps the family, had it remained closed off, wouldn't have. It's a great short book that packs a huge punch, and again, I can't wait to reread. And number 2 is an Argentinian book, Fever Dream by Samantha Schweblin. This book was a big whoop in the literary booktube community a couple of years ago because it was nominated for the Man Booker International, and it's amazing. I read it in Spanish, of course, and I loved it. It's about this young woman who goes with her daughter to the countryside and meets another mother with a son, and she realizes some strange things are going on, but there is sort of this line where she doesn't know whether she's just being paranoid or things are really happening, and it's a brilliant book. I read it twice in a row. After I finished it, I was like, what? And I reread it right away. It's just great. Then finally, my absolute favorite fiction book of 2018, and number 2 on my overall list is How to Be Both by Alice Smith. As I mentioned, I had read Alice Smith before. I read Public Library, and I'm going to reread that book this year also. And it was very, very good. I really liked it. One of my all-time favorite short stories, The Human Claim, is on that collection. But as a whole collection, it was hit or miss. But then this book was hit. It was just amazing. It's about two people in different eras. One, a young woman in modern day Cambridge, and another, a painter in the, I remember which century, I want to say 16th, but I may be really, really off with that, so I'm not sure. But anyways, it's great. Alice Smith has such a particular way of writing that it shouldn't work because it's so packed with references and it's so intertextual and it's so out there that it shouldn't work. And I've seen what people are trying to copy her have done, and it has really been not good, but Alice Smith pulls it off, and I don't know how. And I want to once again read everything she's ever written. It's been a great reading year, doing this list and just like reviewing everything that I've read. I remember much more of what I've read. Books have really stayed with me this year, which is great. Moving forward, I want to reread more, and I want to continue reading great books. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give a thumbs up, please subscribe, please comment what were your favorite book or books this year, both fiction and non-fiction. Stay in tune, I guess. See you next time. Me BS. Oh no. I don't know if her last name is pronounced Bordeaux or like Bordeaux, or because it has an HE after the traditional Bordeaux, so I don't know. Anyways, I want to do so much reading this year, guys. It's not a joke. I keep saying read it, I recommend it. Of course, I want you to read all these books. These are the best books that I've read this year. Anyways, number 3. Anyways.